minutes left. All right. Think it's coming back. I think it's coming back. Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. I think we are back. For some reason, the Zoom update, uh, I don't know what the heck it's doing. It's never done this before, but it just ended the live stream without me touching anything. So sorry, we might have to short Zoom out of disappointment there for ending that. But we're going to be doing just redoing this on another page, part two. We got about 16 minutes left. So Ryan, I'm not sure when it cut out, but I can see we're going live now, and it says it's private. That doesn't make any sense. So whatever, we'll just record it. We'll just record it. It's fine.
Yeah, this might just be us talking to ourselves for a little bit, but whatever. I mean, most people listen on Spotify anyways, so or Apple, wherever they get their podcasts. Let's treat it like it's all one recording. We'll have Brady do the horrible task of trying to mesh these all together. Um, but yeah, I think when we were leaving, you asked me, or before it cut out, you asked me about the Magnificent Seven and basically which three I think were the worst. Tesla, I don't think will perform that well. I think Apple, I have worse expectations and the market seems to be pricing it. It feels to me like Apple just has no one that's going to sell it. Like the indexes own a ton. Pretty much everyone that owns Apple feels like they have owned it for a while and just have a huge tax bill that they might have to pay. I don't know anyone that's buying it. It just a $3 trillion company, right? It's massive. iPhone sales, I have a hard time seeing them grow above 10% from here. Hardware sales in general, I see having a hard time growing above 10% from here. So, yes, could generate $100 billion in cash every year for the next 5 years. That doesn't make it that good of an investment from here. Uh, NVIDIA, no, you know what? I'll change it up from you. I'll put Microsoft in the underperform camp and NVIDIA in the perform well camp.
All right. The AI
Did you
boom
see?
continues.
Did you see Google's the Google Epic Games lawsuit news?
I did. It says there's, well, it's some big, I guess, risk for them, but I guess we don't know what's going to materialize.
Yeah, I read into it a bit this morning. So I guess first of all, they had secret revenue sharing deals with the hardware makers that like basically said like, hey, prohibit the other app stores from coming on and we'll give you a cut of the Google Play revenue. They also struck secret deals with every basically rival app store and said like, we'll give you $10 million in marketing revenue. Like Google will spend $10 million in marketing revenue if you shut down your app store kind of thing. So yeah, guilty on all accounts. They were striking deals that were anti-competitive and prohibiting other app stores. So yeah, they lost on all accounts. They said they're going to appeal the deal. Seems unlikely that they're going to win the appeal. It seems like on Android, it's going to be an open ecosystem that if you want to build your own app store, you can. I wonder what kind of benefit this has for companies like Match Group, where they're potentially paying now way less on any other app store. I bet there's going to be a flood of new app stores that are like 0% fees or like 1% fees, something ridiculously low to try to just garner revenue. And if people download from there, I mean, or they use those billing systems, Match Group's going to be in a really good place profitability wise. Well, a lot of their revenue comes from Apple's app store, but they're going to be in a much better spot in terms of gross margins.
Yeah, I think two things for me there. One, this is probably less hurtful for Alphabet because this is a tiny business for them and more beneficial for the mobile apps that the big mobile apps out there, Duolingo, Match Group, the games, all the big games, stuff like that. And second, it would be hard to argue it eventually won't hurt Apple because aren't they doing, why would you have one regulation for that one app store but not the other? It seems like the regulations are going to end up being similar.
It
right?
was, yeah, from what I was reading, a big part of it is that it's not, for the most part, it's not Google's hardware. So it was striking the deals, like the backdoor revenue sharing agreements with the hardware providers was one of the big reasons that it was anti-competitive. So Apple doesn't have to do that. But my thought here is that like if you're Google now, you can maybe even advertise like, hey, all the apps you want, all the stuff you pay for in the apps, they can be whatever, 20% lower on our phones. Because like if the Match Group, for example, if Tinder Plus or whatever the subscription is today, Tinder Gold, if you can have it be whatever 20, if you're not paying the 30% commission, you've got 20%, you could potentially you could shave off and still make that extra 10%. You can offer lower prices to people through other app stores, which you can do in the Google Play Store, or not the Google Play Store, the Android ecosystem now, potentially. This hasn't all come to fruition yet. You can't really do that on Apple. I don't know if that's enough to draw people over to Android powered devices, but I think it's pretty appealing that basically everything's 20% less, maybe potentially, through Android's ecosystem. So it could ultimately even be a win in terms of like pixels growth.
That's what I was gonna say. It's gonna incentivize, I think, Google to invest more in pixels, which frankly they're already doing. Maybe they've seen this light at the end of the tunnel. I think that's a realistic way that things could happen. I think generally what I'm more confident in is that no one wants these app store fees to be high except for the two app stores. And I think eventually people keep saying, well, I don't know, none of this ever actually materializes. It's been 30% forever and nothing actually happens. But I think eventually you have to expect that the fees are going to come down. And look, I believe, according to, we don't have the actual numbers that are audited, but this is kind of just from reporting that the App Store on Apple has like 60% margins, could be doing like 10 billion in earnings a year. Maybe even that's not an insignificant part of the business.
Not a bad business. The
That's a great business, and it's shocking to me that they've like, why didn't they just lower it to a smaller fee? Because it's not going to kill your business, but you're going to make everyone and all your stakeholders, excuse me, happy.
Yeah, I think Apple might still be in a decent spot because I don't necessarily see people switching, like switching from iOS to Android devices purely because there's lower prices in the apps, maybe.
Yeah.
I think people just love iPhones for whatever reason. And once you're kind of in there, you're stuck. Uh, but yeah, across the world, we're now seeing legislation or verdicts that rule against Apple. So maybe it starts to come down. But yeah, it would be something that I would probably do proactively.
Yeah,
Maybe
it seems like maybe,
like
but they're incentivized to keep it high for short-term profits. I would say as an investor, I would price in that, which is why another reason that I'm not attracted to Apple. And it looks like they're going to lose the Google search Apple anti-competitive thing, which is a
think.
fat fee, could be up to $20 billion a year. That's another risk that is like, look, Apple could make it up somewhere else with another deal or doing their own search engine, but that creates a lot of uncertainty. That was a 100% margin, $20 billion payment a year. They had to do minimal work. And if that just kept going, that's beautiful. But if it goes away, they got to do a lot more work. There's a ton of uncertainty there. And stock's at 33 times earnings.
Do you think that was probably just like they Google got $20 billion in mobile ad revenue or 25 billion, let's say, and they said Apple will give you 20 billion.
No, unless I'm misinterpreting what you're saying there. Apple got 36% of
The search revenue.
Google search revenue on Safari.
Oh, okay.
So they probably make like, I don't know if I'm dividing it correctly, 60 billion, 55 billion in revenue, which seems like a decently fair cut, but You could, I mean, it's clear how it's anti-competitive.
Yeah. In a world where Safari is open to any browser,
Well, it already
or
is, right? I mean, you can change it.
can you?
Yeah, you can change the search to anything else.
I didn't know that. The
It's just default.
Do you
Yeah.
think most people just download Chrome?
Well, I mean, half download Chrome already. That's what I do because I like connecting it to the basically Google account stuff where I have all my passwords saved in Chrome, payments and stuff like that. So yeah, I think a lot more people download Chrome, but they already are. So
Maybe
it's going
this
to be
could.
interesting how it shakes out.
Yeah. I think we're running up on time, but it got a little messy after.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Looks like we did another 10 minutes. Yeah, I think that's probably whatever. If it's not exactly an hour, it doesn't matter. For anyone that's listening, hopefully we'll probably toss in something at the beginning saying that the stream broke. But we got a good 45 minutes in there before for some reason the Zoom update didn't work very well. So sorry, Zoom. Sorry for everyone, but it shouldn't be too bad for the audio quality. These goes live every Thursday. If you want to ask us questions, join in the chat 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you like the show, please share and tell a friend. I think that's a good one that Ryan mentioned that I'll probably say every time now. And give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can listen to this wherever you get your podcast. Let's go through the disclosure. We are not financial advisors. Anything we say on the show is not formal advice or recommendation. Ryan, I, and any guest on the show may own stocks discussed on this podcast, may have owned them in the past, and may buy, sell, or hold any of these stocks in the future. Thank you, everyone. And for the few asking the questions, and we'll see you next time.